Hello, Froggy here, and welcome to my look at the Planet of the Apes franchise, Part 3! Today we'll be looking at the 1975 cartoon, Return to the Planet of the Apes. So grab yourself a big fat bowl of cereal and let's watch some cartoons together. Titled Return to the Planet of the Apes, this once again sees a team of astronauts finding themselves in the far-off future after a terrible accident happens in space. This time around, we follow Bill, Jeff, and Judy as they try to figure out what's going on as they are stranded smack dab in the middle of the desert. The first thing you're going to notice, and something I have to point out, is that this show looks rough. They were not given the time and finances to make something of quality, and it's really unfortunate. But hey, just getting it out of the way, yes, the show looks bad. It's animated terribly. Though I will say, at times, the environments and still shots look rather nice. But what about the plot? What about the characters? Maybe that makes up for it. And in episode 1, they crash, they find themselves in the middle of nowhere, and they go to find life. And they walk, and they walk, and they walk some more. Though eventually they get attacked by thunderbolts and lightning and fire, and it's all very, very frightening. The fire comes along and it just specifically sets fire to their provisions and destroys it and then keeps going. And eventually they're hit by an earthquake and the ground opens up beneath them and Judy falls down, and our two other heroes show their brilliant observant skills.
Higher ground over there. Maybe we can spot her.
We've got to. No one just disappears.
So Judy's gone and now it's just Bill and Jeff. And Bill and Jeff finally come across other humans. But much like in the original Planet of the Apes films, these humans don't talk. They're dumb as rocks. Except for Nova. Nova's back this time around. And you actually get a pretty interesting bit of storytelling because she's wearing dog tags of other astronauts who have been there. This cartoon does have characters from previous films, but they're all playing different roles here. Just think of it as an alternate universe. And as you'll see later, the way the apes function and how their city looks is also different, as in this universe they drive and have televisions, which is closer to how the book was, and I think that's a really neat way of going about things. Of course, we're also introduced to our apes. We have Dr. Zaius,
Dr. Zaius!
Dr. Zyra, and Cornelius from the previous films, along with General Urko. Anyhows, so after shortly meeting the other humans, of course, the apes attack, and they bring like a whole convoy this time around. They're not fucking about. They start throwing grenades into the cave that start knocking out people with noxious gas, and Bill's captured, but Jeff and Nova escape. Meanwhile, with the apes, they're having an emergency council meeting to debate whether to kill all the humans or not because they might be getting too smart. And yeah, that's pretty horrifying. Dr. Zyra and Cornelius want to study the humans to see how they're getting smarter and how they're evolving. And General Urko wants to kill all the humans because he's, well, really, really evil. Cartoonishly evil, if you will. And Dr. Zaius is like, well, we can't kill them all right now because we have no proof. But if any of them prove to be smarty pants, I guess we'll have to kill them all at any cost. The reason they're even having this whole conversation is because it's prophesized in their wacky little book that humans will rise up and enslave the apes if they start gaining too much knowledge and power. Is that irrational and really screwed up? You're darn tootin' it is. Episode 2 continues right after Episode 1 and sees Bill being transferred to Ape City. It's a small thing, but I like this shot of the film crew setting up. I just think it's cute. It's a nice little touch. The captured humans get paraded in, and we get a better idea of what they're going to do with them, either putting them to manual labor or even putting them in zoos. And of course, some of them will be given to Zyra and Cornelius to do science stuff with, which I'm sure will be 100% cruelty-free. General Urko isn't a big fan of how Zeus is handling the humans, and he says that maybe the gorillas will be in charge one day. Nothing ominous here. When taking a look at the humans, Dr. Zyra thinks Bill is a super special boy and wants to take him in for research. In a callback to the first film, she starts calling him Blue Eyes. Now, Bill didn't get the memo about this whole no-talking thing, so when Cornelius is suggesting to Zyra that maybe they should try doing some brain probes on him, Bill isn't exactly too thrilled to hear this and lets his objections be heard. This is also my favorite line delivery in the whole show.
Schedule a probing operation on his brain centers.
You're crazy! Operate on my brain!
Bill really bungled that one up, and one of the security guards heard him talk, and he goes right to Zeus. Cornelius and Zyra realize the danger this put him in, and decide, yeah, let's let him go free, let's help him escape. To avoid suspicion, they pretend that Bill overpowered them and knocked them out. Now Bill's on the run, and I love this running animation, it's great, I never got tired of it. Thankfully for Bill, the security force in this city is really bad at their jobs. Bill eventually finds his way out of Ape City and runs into Jeff and Nova, who had come to Ape City to rescue him. Now they want to get as far away from there as possible, and while they're getting away, they come across a camp of poor humans that have been locked up, so they free them because they're two awesome dudes. They even burn the place down for good measure. It doesn't take long for General Urko and Zeus to find this out, but by the time they even think to start looking for them, they've already made it as far away from there as possible after stealing one of the trucks. Urko tries to give chase, but Bill and Jeff are one step ahead of him, and they push the truck off the side of a cliff so it'll block the road. And with that, Bill, Jeff, and the other humans are safe for now, but they know they have to plan ahead because General Urko is hell-bent on finding them. In episode 3, we see Bill and Jeff looking for a habitable area for them and the other humans. And uh-oh, it's Urko, that rapscallion. You're gonna see a pretty common formula as we go through these episodes. Thankfully for our heroes, rocks jut out of the ground to block the apes, and a secret passageway opens up beneath them. But who could have done this? Mole people? Earthbenders? Well, it's the Underdwellers. And this time they're not worshipping a nuke, they're worshipping Usa. Usa, Usa, Usa. It's Judy. Oh, right, and they also find out that they've been on Earth this whole time. They go to say hi to Judy, but the guy standing next to her isn't too happy about this and knocks them out with his eye beams. When they come to, they're greeted by Krator, who explains that Usa Judy is prophesized to be this big important figure that will lead them back into the overworld and take down the apes. They even have this statue of her head and name on it, so you know that they're legit. Judy seems to be under some sort of mind control, so she doesn't recognize Bill or Jeff, but Jeff takes out one of their friendship rings to get her to remember. That doesn't seem to work, so Bill and Jeff are put into a little prison with a force field in front of it, until Judy shows up and reveals that it did work, and the power of friendship saves the day. But escaping won't be that easy, so Judy pretends to still be cool with the Underdwellers, and she just starts breaking shit in order to cause a distraction, and then they try to make a mad dash out of there through their mining system. Here we get an exciting chase sequence where the Underdwellers just can't seem to hit them with their laser eyes over and over again. But KYGOOR has a trick up his sleeve, as he has his own fancy chair and he puts a bucket on his head that amplifies his mind powers, that allows him to weaken Judy until she eventually just kind of disappears and teleports back to him. Oh yeah, and General Urkel and his army get tricked by some mirages and give up, I guess. That's the episode. For episode 4, we see Bill and Jeff try to figure out ways to help their other human friends get a better settlement, and they come up with the idea to ask Cornelius and Zyra, which means going back into Ape City. So Bill and Jeff are able to get into Ape City by hiding in the back of a farmer's truck and wait, I love this song.
Never thought that I'd be acting humanoid. That ain't the simian thing to do. Humanoids go frantic when the poor things get dramatic. And I'm going humanoid over you. Homo sapiens go plumb bananas. Ever spring just watch them in the zoo. Apes would never, ever match their minds together. But when you're near, that's all I want to do.
They use a rowboat so they can dock at the canals, and they have to go through the sewer system because they start hearing apes that are on patrol. And of course, like everybody knows, you have to be careful when you're walking around in the sewers because there's lots of dangers, like giant spiders. But don't worry about it, they're okay. So they eventually make it to Cornelius and Zyra, who gladly help them and make a copy of the map to show them where they think it'll be best suited for the humans to go live. Cornelius shows up to say hi to the scientists, but Bill and Jeff just kind of hide behind a table and they're fine. Cornelius draws them a map and he sneaks them out of there the next day. He shows them how they can get to their destination through a river that runs through a cave system. Another ape actually shows up and confronts Cornelius, but by then Bill and Jeff have hid themselves under the rocks. Despite this though, they get swept away in the current. So they take a fun log ride down the river and, oh hey, they found the other humans. This all doesn't go off without a hitch though, as Cornelius forgets to bring his archaeology tools with him, and the ape who confronted him tells General Urkel about this. The episode ends with General Urkel knowing that there's something up now, and that the humans have relocated, and he's one step closer to finding and capturing them. The next episode begins with the citizens of Ape City in an uproar as they find out that humanoids from outer space may have landed on their planet some time ago. A patrolling gorilla had seen our astronauts fall to Earth in the first episode, but people just generally think he's probably gone crazy. But it's being taken seriously just enough that it's made the newspaper and there's been an emergency meeting about it. I like this episode because we get a better look at Ape City and its inhabitants, and it's all just really neat to me. I mean, look at this guy from the press, look at his little hat, it's so cute. Of course, this mass hysteria is a big problem, so Cornelius decides that he's going to head out to where the supposed spaceship had fallen and bring people along to show proof that it's either there or not. Cornelius and Zyra send a signal to our human friend and warn him about the fact that they have found the crash site and people are going to start heading there to find it. So now we have a race against time between the humans and the apes, because this will be detrimental to humanity if they do. Thankfully for Bill and Jeff, the apes have to travel through the Forbidden Zone, remember that, in order to get to where the crash site is, and the Underdwellers help along the way to slow down the apes. They do the usual fire and lightning illusions along with the earthquakes, but they also do this one where they put like an ape skull in the sky and have it shoot fire out of its face. I want this on a shirt. This is great. Cornelius knows these are all illusions because some of them do understand how the Underdwellers function, but it doesn't stop other apes from being terrified and having to stop every once in a while. Bill and Jeff, with Nova, make it to the crash site before the apes do, and they have to get down there and get what supplies they can before they get caught. and they also have to destroy the crash site, so they're gonna have to rig explosions too. They get a real cool laser pistol out of this endeavor, but when Bill goes back to place the explosion, he gets attacked by a giant sea urchin. You think the convoy of apes would have reached them by now, but competence isn't exactly their strong suit, so they don't get there in time. Like, you have Bill fighting off this giant sea creature, and then Jeff having to go down there and save him, and still these apes are driving as slowly as possible to the site. Even when they do arrive, a mix of one last flame wall and the explosion along with a giant sea serpent is enough to cover up the fact that there is ever a ship there. And that's all the news crew and other apes need to see to be convinced that there was never a spaceship to begin with, and the episode ends with the day saved once again by ape incompetence. In this next episode, we praise KYGOOR, god of the mountain apes. Praise KYGOOR. Okay, fine, there's a little more to the episode than that. In this episode, we find out that Cornelius had found an ancient book during one of his archaeologist runs. Is it called archaeologist runs? I don't know. I know nothing about archaeology. I'm just a frog. Anyway, this book is about the zoo and shows very clearly that humans used to be the higher life form. This would be incredibly dangerous for anyone to find out, so Cornelius and Zyra have to hide the book until they can figure out what to do with it. Also, while on his Indiana Jones adventure, Cornelius finds a blueprint on how to make a flying air balloon. Now, they don't know how to make a hot air balloon, but you know who might know how to make a hot air balloon? Bill and Jeff. Why not? Let's go out and find Bill and Jeff. And oh hey, they do! And they also bring that super important book that could end humanity if the wrong people found it with them, just for good measure, you know? Now, you would think there'd be a montage of them getting these materials and building the hot air balloon, but you'd be wrong, because it is instantly done in the next scene because they're just that amazing. And Cornelius and Bill go on their hot air ballooning adventure. Zyra isn't too thrilled about her husband doing this, and she has good reason to, because Bill and Cornelius immediately lose control of the hot air balloon and go flying in a random direction. And I've just gotta say, Zyra's eyesight is incredible.
They're going too high.
Relax, Zira. Everything is A-OK.
So Bill and Cornelius float into the great unknown, and eventually into the snowy mountains, where you would think they freeze to death, but you see, Bill's built different. He doesn't feel the cold at all. And of course there's apes on patrol here. Why? Why not? Look, I like their coats. Eventually, the hot air balloon starts losing altitude and makes its way down, and before poor Cornelius becomes a monkey popsicle, they're saved by some nice mountain people. Here we meet Olama, who is the leader of the mountain apes, and they all praise KYGOOR, god of the mountain apes. KYGOOR, KYGOOR, KYGOOR. He's a cool dude who's perfectly happy to help them get back to where they came from and fix their hot air balloon. He takes them on the lift so they can go up and pray to KYGOOR, and gosh damn it, those apes show up and try to ruin the day. But they weren't ready for the power of KYGOOR, cause you see, KYGOOR isn't just a big statue, he lives! Rise, KYGOOR! The apes are no match for the might of KYGOOR, and he soon gains victory. After that, the mountain apes help out Bill and Cornelius, they fix the hot air balloon, and they make their way out of there, but not before giving the book to the mountain apes to keep safekeeping of away from other apes. Alright, okay, so what's happening next episode? Bill and Jeff are hanging out, talking about how General Urko's a huge dick, and then Judy beams in through minds teleporting shit and tells them that the Underdwellers are in trouble and everyone could die, so they need to come over and help. And she also asks them to bring their fancy laser gun. Now, Bill and Jeff think this is one of Krator's wacky illusions, but they head over just in case. Meanwhile, General Urko and the scientists are arguing whether they should get funding for weapons or science. Seriously, that's what they say. Weapons. Science. Dr. Zaius is pretty torn on who to give the funding to, so he has to wait to make his decision. Zaius also brings up the fact that General Urkel is really bad at his job, and that the humans have been avoiding him for months now, so I don't think he's getting that funding. Back with the humans, Bill and Jeff, being the brilliant people they are, decide to hide the laser away before entering the underworld. I love this running animation. Let's just take a minute to admire it. Look at this. Okay, back to the story. They get there, and Kratos and Judy have to explain to them that there is no trick here, they are actually in danger, and that lava is going to go through their entire base and kill them all. Now you think Bill and Jeff would hear this and understand the gravity of the situation, but they decide to try to negotiate with Kratos that they will help them if Kratos allows Judy to leave with them afterwards, because they're psychopaths. So they go get their laser gun, but they weren't very good at hiding it because it gets found by the gorillas, and now they have to go to Urkel's camp in order to get it back. Urkel has a camp set up there because he's hell-bent on finding them and also taking out the Underdwellers. So after some shenanigans and some sweet dance moves, they're able to get the laser back and head back to where the Underdwellers are. Thankfully, the lava is very polite, and it hasn't made much progress since they left. But now General Urkel and his army know where they are and mount their attack. Bill and Jeff get back and start lasering a hole in the side of the volcano to let the magma out and stop the flow. Unfortunately, Urkel and his army get there, but in their brilliance, they shoot the side of the volcano, letting all the magma out, and it should be killing all of them, but it's fine, it's slow magma, they get away, they're all able to get out of their vehicles, don't worry about it. So after that catastrophic blunder, General Urkel is definitely not getting that funding he needed, and Judy's free to come and go as she pleases now, so that's nice. So now we're on to an episode entitled Screaming Wing, and the gorillas have found an old airplane, refurbished it, gotten it to work, and they can fly now. When did all this happen? How did it happen? That's a great question. This is bad news for Bill, Jeff, and Judy, who had to let Cornelius and Zyra know about this new threat. Bill warns them by using a mirror to shine light into their office and blind Zyra. Great job, Bill. They come to the conclusion that they need to make their way to the airplanes and blow them up before things can get any worse. And thankfully they know when there's going to be a demonstration of this plane, because they've made a big old hullabaloo about it and invited everybody to watch it fly. General Urkel is going to use this event as a big display of power, as this is going to give him the upper hand in taking over Ape City and going into control. But that's not going to be easy, because those rascally humans are here to ruin his day. So Bill, Jeff, and Judy make their way to where the airplanes are so they can sabotage them. This is also where we find out that Judy is an amazing pilot. So their plan is set, and now it's the big day for their big military parade, where they're going to show off their fancy new flying machine to the other apes. I also want to stop for a moment to point out this guy's amazing outfit. Let's all just admire it for a moment. Looking good. Of course, everything goes terribly wrong for General Urkel, because he's had to deal with this 2 humanoids up until now, but now he has to deal with 3 humanoids. Bill and Jeff knock out the pilot, and Judy replaces him. Judy flies the plane far away from everybody else, while Bill and Jeff take over one of the locomotions that are going through the fuel depot and blow up the entire hub of planes. Wow, General Urkel and his gorilla army are really bad at their jobs. Have you noticed they're really bad at their jobs? Cornelius notices and tells him off again. So great job there, Urkel. You'll get him next time, I'm sure. The humans get away again, and now they have a cool new plane. We open the next episode of humanoids destroying the forest to make rafts. Damn those humanoids. They're all headed down the river to get further away from Urgo's army and find greener pastures. Back with the apes, Zaius is trying to figure out who flew the plane during that military demonstration, and Cornelius and Zyra genuinely have no idea. The humans travel down the river to their new location isn't going to be easy though, because there's many perils, like bats, but they know how to deal with bats. What you do is you put your hands in the air, and then you wave them like you just don't care, and they'll be so wowed by your dance moves that they'll leave you alone. We see General Urko and his men, and General Urko is now going into full conspiracy tin hat mode because he thinks there's a spy among them, which is why he keeps screwing everything up. After their journey down the river, the humans now have to traverse the hot desert, and this one guy is so exhausted that he collapses, and you can see the top of his animation cell. General Urko and his army make their way to where they think the humans are, but they're already long gone, and General Urko is just having his mind blown because humans are too stupid to know how to swim, apparently. The humans make their way through the desert until they come by something very interesting, a large crashed spacecraft. And one of the people who piloted this large spacecraft is still alive. His name is Brent, and Nova knows him. Remember the first episode when she had all those dog tags? Well, here he is. Brent, who wants you to call him Ron, by the way, tells our friends that because of time hole stuff, he got there years before they did, even though he was born 100 or so years after they were. And he tells us a sweet little story about how Nova found him and how he was basically settled into this new living situation with the other humans. Unfortunately, he lost contact with these humans after a sandstorm, but now they're reunited, so that's nice. So now the apes have 4 talking humans to deal with, and that's going to be quite the headache. It also helps that Ron had a self-destruct module on his crashed ship that's still functioning, so they take it with them. You never know when you'll need it. The humanoids get to work building a large structure inside the side of a mountain that they can all live in. Yes, I know this has a name, but I don't know how to pronounce it properly. General Urko's scouts are actually able to track down the humans and relay the information back to him. So if here he goes again, I'm sure he'll get them this time. Urko and his army roll up and they throw the gas grenades at their huts, and the grenades just kind of bounce off the shutters of the windows and bounce back, and the gas starts affecting the apes instead. So they have to retreat. And that's it, that was their attack. They just have to leave now.
Impossible! The humanoid beasts are too stupid to know how to defend themselves!
To bolster their defenses, the humans use that self-destruct mechanism on a big rock formation so they can block off a key entrance to where they're living. And now we're on to our next episode, which is my least favorite episode of the entire series, so let's get through this. A giant flying dinosaur starts flying over Ape City and bugging everybody. It doesn't really do anything, it's just annoying. And everyone's freaking out. It's all over the news. And I'm just gonna let you know now, I'm not gonna play the sound, but it makes a screeching noise whenever it's on screen. And it's on screen for a majority of the episode. Then the giant flying creature heads over to where the humanoids are and starts eating their cows and everything, so nobody's having a good time here. Meanwhile, Judy and Bill have to go get the airplane they got from a few episodes ago, so they have to travel all the way back to where they were before, and thankfully they get to avoid this disaster. So yeah, they make their way to where they were storing the airplane. They get away even though some apes show up and are like, oh shit, they're taking the plane. So they fly off, they see the giant bird and they're like, oh shit, a giant bird's attacking our people. So they fly after the bird, clip its wing, the bird plummets into the water, and that's that. Except at the end, the bird pops its head out of the water because it can't just stay dead. Okay, so there, we got through that. Now on to our next episode. They need to get fuel for the plane they just brought back. So now Bill and Jeff have to head all the way to a fuel depot and then drive the fuel all the way back. And that's their mission for this episode. And don't you worry about them getting back safely with these oil drums, because the car they're driving is able to defy the laws of physics. Back of the other humans, Nova isn't doing too well, and it turns out she somehow got a rare disease that within 48 hours will become so bad that it'll infect everyone else and kill them. And I'm no scientist, so I'm just gonna believe everything they said. So now Judy has to use the plane of what little fuel it has left to fly near Ape City, talk to Cornelius and Zyra, get a cure, and fly back. Bill and Jeff notice the plane and decide to follow it to see who's flying it. They find out it's Judy, and now all three of them are on a mission to find fuel. So now in a race against time, Bill and Jeff have to take the truck to get the fuel, and Judy has to walk into Ape City and get in contact with Cornelius and Zyra. But of course, as you remember, Ape City has no security, so she gets in pretty easy, tells Zyra and Cornelius what the issue is, and they're able to work something out. They have this whole montage where they're preparing the medicine to bring back, and where was this quality earlier in the series? Look at these pictures. This looks great. Dr. Zaius shows up to check on her scientist, so Judy hides in the closet. And to get him to go away, they just tell him that the experiment they're working on could explode any minute now if they don't get back to it. So he leaves. Afterwards, they drive Judy back to the place where the plane is, and when they get stopped by some gorillas, they say that this corpse is plague-ridden, and they have to get it out of the area right now, so they're allowed to go by. After a few hiccups, Bill and Jeff are able to get the fuel they need, and also head back to the rendezvous point. They are getting chased by gorillas, but they're fine, they get away, and Judy's able to fly off and deliver the medicine. They give the medicine to Nova, she's miraculously better, and the day is saved. Our next episode sees the Underdwellers stealing from the apes in Ape City and causing a panic. They even steal Cornelius's prized family heirloom, a first edition of William Apesphere, those monsters. But this sudden wave of robbery seems kinda suspicious, and pretty out of character for the Underdwellers. Because it is, because it's just the gorillas in robes. They're stealing stuff so they can blame it on the Underdwellers, and then they'll have an excuse to attack the Underdwellers. Because they're all very, very smart. So Cornelius and Zyra head over to the humanoids to see what's up, and they think it seems pretty suspicious, and that the Underdwellers would never do this, even though Bill and Jeff were ready to kill them all with lava if they didn't let Judy go. But anyway, that's in the past, don't worry, they're cool now. Then KYGOOR projects himself in and tells them that he didn't do a goddamn thing, and head on over so they can come up with a plan to expose what's actually happening. Meanwhile, back with the apes, Dr. Zaius and co. are getting witnesses to come forward and talk about their experiences with the Underdwellers stealing their stuff. Unsurprisingly, these witnesses are paid actors from General Urko, and it's a huge sham. Bill, Jeff, and Judy make their way to the Underdwellers, and Kratos mind teleports Judy to safety as he heads to the danger zone of Bill and Jeff. General Urko tells Dr. Zaius of his plans to blow up a very specific region of the tunnels of the rivers near Ape City, so it will collapse and flood the tunnels, getting rid of the Underdwellers. It sounds like an amazing plan that will not backfire in any way. Kratos brings Bill and Jeff to the danger zone, which does not seem very dangerous, but leads to the ape graveyard, where we find out that the gorillas had put all their stolen goods inside a very specific crypt. One of the gorillas guarding the crypt find them, but KYGOOR uses his wacky mind powers to knock him out and make it so when he comes back to, that he'll confess to everything. So to get out their message about what they found, Kratos uses his mind teleport abilities to project Bill's face onto a mirror in Cornelius and Zyra's bedroom so he can let them know. Yep, that's a sentence I just read, and we're just gonna move right on by that. So Cornelius and Zyra now have to tell Dr. Zaius what Urgo's doing. They get Dr. Zaius and they drive out to where all the stolen goods are, where they find the gorilla that was knocked out, who wakes up and tells them exactly what's going on. Unfortunately, none of this matters because General Urgo is sick of taking orders from Dr. Zaius and decides to blow the place up anyway without his permission. By the time Dr. Zaius comes back to try to stop him, it's too late as he's already set his plan in motion. Thankfully, Bill and Jeff are able to find a shortcut through the tunnels to stop the boat and send it back towards General Urgo. Also, thankfully, this turns out to be the most non-lethal explosion in history, so nobody dies. Now, this is a huge screw-up, and he also kind of committed treason, so you'd think General Urgo would get a massive punishment for this. And he does. He's suspended for 3 months. Wow, 50 years later and I can still relate this show to real life. And with that, we are on to our final episode, Battle of the Titans. So Urgo's supposed to be suspended for the next 3 months, but he's still hanging around the army and giving the new general orders, and this seems like a big conflict of interest. Zyra and Cornelius make their way to the humans and let them know that General Urgo's been suspended. They also let them know that they're going to start pushing for human rights in the Ape Council. Part of their plan to show the Senate is to get the book from earlier in the season to show them that humans used to be a far more intelligent species. Who knows, maybe the Senate won't be so murdery this time around. So now they have to go all the way back to the mountain apes to retrieve the book, but they can't use the plane because it probably won't survive the conditions, and they can't walk there because it'll take forever. So they have to get the hot air balloon, repair it, get it all going, and then head there. Meanwhile, the new general, under Urgo's orders, is mounting an attack on the human settlement. So after they've repaired the hot air balloon and they're traveling there, it's Bill and Cornelius going again. They love hot air balloons. They're spotted by the gorillas who rev up their car, which causes a rock to fling into the air, down into the river below, which hits that goddamn flying creature from earlier, and now it's up and flying again, so thanks a lot. So now Bill and Cornelius are getting attacked by the flying creature, and they're not having a good time. Alongside this, the new general and his army are moving up on the human settlement, and they're blowing up the blockade they had up to stop them. The army arrives there once again, so Judy gets in the plane and then just kind of flies around them real low and spooks them. And this is enough to just make the whole army freak out and leave. That's seriously what happens. She doesn't, drop anything on them or do anything else, just kind of swoops in on them a few times and scares them. So they're gone. Bill and Cornelius are able to avoid the flying creature for now, and make their way back to the mountain apes. They talk to a llama again, who's happy to see them, and he brings them up to KYGOOR, so he can retrieve the book that he hid there. On their way back from retrieving the book, the goddamn flying creature, which is its official name, comes back and starts attacking them again. Thankfully for our heroes, KYGOOR awakens and beats the shit out of the goddamn flying creature. So they now have the book back again, and they can make their way back to the human settlement. And that's the end of the animated series. This might sound kinda weird, but even though it looked pretty terrible at times and it was pretty silly, I found these series charming, and I had a fun time watching it again for this video. If you can find it, check it out. It's fun. Join me next time when we look at the live-action TV show from 1974. I wanted to cover both shows this time around, but there was just so much to the live-action show that I felt it needed the time and care and not just rush it out altogether. So that'll be the next part. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed listening to this weird little frog talk about cartoons from the 70s for almost an hour, then maybe like and subscribe, or leave a little comment. That would be swell. But either way, I'm just happy you were along with me for this little adventure. Have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.